Hi everybody, this is a webcast of What Can We See in the Sky Day 5, and our text connections is what we are talking about today, and our objectives are to compare and contrast text with the same topic. So let's go ahead and think about, what did you learn about the night sky? That's what we've been talking about for this whole unit. Okay, so here we go. You learned a lot about what we can see in the sky. So let's read Mr. Putter and Tabby and See the Stars so that you can fill out the Venn diagram, and we'll do that together. This is on your slide. You learned a lot about what we can see in the sky. Discuss what you learned from Starry Night on page 198 in Reading Writing Workshop, Grade 2. And Mr. Putter and Tabby See the Stars, page 232 in your literature anthology. And you want to make sure that you have both of those ready so that you can work on the Venn diagram with us. Complete the Venn diagram to compare the two stories, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but let's go ahead and read Mr. Putter and Tabby. And just to point out our story words, we're going to hear words like Jelly Roll, Big Dipper, and Milky Way. We talked about Big Dipper and Milky Way in a previous story. And a Jelly Roll is actually like a dessert item that you would eat. So this is a chapter book. It has 3 chapters. One is Logs, one is Grumble, and one is called Stars. So chapter 1, oops. Oh my goodness. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. This is a story by Cynthia Ryland, and it's illustrated by Arthur Howard. Chapter 1, Logs. Mr. Putter and his fine cat Tabby loved to sleep. They could sleep anywhere. They slept in chairs, in swings, in cars, in tubs, and sometimes in the laundry room. Mr. Putter and Tabby also slept in a bed. Of course, most of the time, sleeping in a bed was just fine. Mr. Putter plumped his pillow, Tabby squished hers, and then they slept like logs. But one night, one of the logs could not sleep. All right, so we have the word plumped in here, and plumped means make bigger, and squished means make smaller. And this is the beginning of the story. So what is the first event that happens? Go ahead and think about that. They couldn't sleep. Now we know that they're not logs, right? So it says they most of the time sleeping in the bed was fine. They slept like logs, and logs just kind of lay still, and they just are quiet and silent. And so one night, one of the logs couldn't sleep. So it looks like Tabby's sleeping. So Mr. Putter must not be able to sleep. So that's what happens at the beginning of the story. Chapter 2, Grumble. Mr. Putter was the log who could not sleep. He could not sleep because he had eaten too many pineapple jelly rolls at Mrs. Teaberry's house. Mrs. Teaberry was Mr. Putter's good friend and neighbor, and she liked to feed him. She liked to feed everybody, but most of all, she liked to feed Mr. Putter. She was always sending her good dog Zeke over to Mr. Putter's house with a note. The note always said, "Are you hungry?" And Mr. Putter always said yes. So he and Tabby went next door a lot. But tonight, Mr. Putter had been having such a good time that he lost track and ate 21 jelly rolls. He forgot to count them as he popped them one at a time into his mouth. Before he knew it, 21 jelly rolls were gone, and it was time to go home. All right, so this is the middle of the story, and there's a problem in the middle of the story. What's the problem? Think about it for a minute. What did Mr. Putty do that made him not be able to sleep? Mr. Putter ate too many jelly rolls and he can't sleep. Mrs. Teaberry was happy that Mr. Putter enjoyed her jelly rolls, but Mr. Putter's stomach was not. It grumbled and grumbled and grumbled. Mr. Putter looked at his nice soft bed when he got home. Grumble, grumbled his stomach. Mr. Putter knew he would not be able to sleep with all that grumbling. What to do? Mr. Putter looked at Tabby, then he got an idea. Chapter 3, Stars. Let's go for a walk, Mr. Putter said. He put his coat back on, he put his hat back on, he picked up Tabby, and out the door they went. So what idea did Mr. Putter have because he couldn't sleep? He had the idea to go for a walk. It was a beautiful night. The moon was full and moonlight was everywhere. Oh, I remember that they saw the moonlight in the Starry Night. Tabby looked, she listened, she twitched her ears, she twitched her tail, she loved the night. Mr. Putter loved it too, even with a grumbling stomach. Do you remember why Mr. Putter's stomach is grumbling? If you're not sure, you can always go back and reread. Mr. Putter looked up at the sky. He showed Tabby the stars, and he told her all about them. He told her that the Big Dipper was full of milk from the Milky Way, and Tabby purred. She loved milk. He told her about looking at the stars when he was a boy and how he had always wanted to ride in a rocket ship. He told her how he had always dreamed of adventure. Tabby purred some more, and Mr. Putter and Tabby made a nice big circle around the neighborhood. So I also remember learning about the Big Dipper and the Milky Way and the girls looking at stars in a starry night. Interesting. So why do you think that Mr. Putter tells Tabby that the Milky Way is filled with milk when we know it isn't? It says over here that she loved milk. And what did Mr. Putter dream of doing when he was a boy? He dreamed about going into space. They looked at the sky, they looked at the yellow lights of the houses, they looked at the cats sitting in the windows looking back at them, and when at last they circled back home, they stopped in front of Mrs. Teaberry's house. Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke were on the front lawn. "Mrs. Teaberry, what are you doing up?" asked Mr. Putter. So Mr. Putter asked why Mrs. Teaberry is up. Why is Mr. Putter up too? Remember his stomach was grumbling and he couldn't sleep? "Zeke has a grumbling stomach," said Mrs. Teaberry. "He ate too many jelly rolls and we can't sleep." Mr. Putter and Tabby were delighted. They sat down on the lawn with Mrs. Teaberry and Zeke. Mr. Putter's stomach and Zeke's stomach talked to each other, while Mr. Putter and Mrs. Teaberry talked to each other. They told stories in the moonlight. They told secrets. They made each other laugh. Oh, so what did they do when they finished their walk? So Mr. Putter and Tabby couldn't sleep. They went for a walk. What did they do? They find out that Mrs. Teaberry is awake because Zeke has a tummy ache from eating too many jelly rolls. So they sit around and talk and tell stories. When the stomachs on the front, then when the stomachs on the front lawn stopped grumbling, everyone said goodnight, went to bed, and slept like logs. In the morning, Mr. Putter heard a scratching at the door. He opened it. It was Zeke with a note. The note said, "Are you hungry?" Mr. Putter smiled. He picked up Tabby, and together they walked next door. All right, so Mr. Putter finally goes to sleep at the end, and then the next day they visit Mrs. Teaberry again. So I really like the theme of friendship in this story. It seems like Mr. Putter and Mrs. Teaberry are good friends. All right, so the last part of our lesson is we are going to fill out the Venn diagram to compare Starry Night and Mr. Putter and Tabby See Stars. So what I've done is I've started this for you with some sentence starters. So you're just going to look back in the text and fill in the blanks. So you want to make sure you have both texts with you when you fill the blank in. So I have the Venn diagram, Starry Night's on one side, Mr. Putter and Tabby Sees the Stars is on the other, and then in the middle is both. So the things that are different and the things that are the same. All right, so what I would like you to do is pause the video and try to fill in the blanks with your learning coach. You have to go back and double check to see if you can find in the text what I was writing, but I have some sentence starters for you. So for example, let's look at both. They both see blank. In Starry Night, you can check on 201, and Mr. Putter and Tabby, you can check on page 241 and see what they both see. They both see blank, blank. Starry Night, page 201, Mr. Putter and Tabby, page 242. So you can try to figure out what they both see. And then you can go over to Starry Night. Oops-a-daisy, I clicked the end of the slideshow. Then you can go over to Starry Night, read these sentences and fill in the blanks. I've put the page numbers for you. And then Mr. Putter and Tabby Sees the Stars. I put the page numbers for you as well with some blanks there. So use these sentence starters, pause this video, and see if you can fill in this Venn diagram. You can certainly just discuss this with your learning coach. All right, great job, friends. See you later, alligators.